Okay, we'll call the North Plains Planning Commission regular meeting for February the 9th, 2022 to order at 7 o'clock. Could I please get the roll call?
Thank you, Chair King. Commissioner Houth,
Here.
Commissioner Ken Odell,
Here.
Commissioner Van Domelen,
Here.
Commissioner Nunnenkamp,
Here.
Vice Chair Labonte,
Here.
Chair King,
Here.
and your ex officio this evening is Councilor Rush Sheldon.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 4 is public comments. This is time for anyone in the meeting to give any comments on Planning Commission business that is not on the agenda. Is there anyone?
I'm sorry, I don't know this menu. Yeah, lawyer report. Want to talk about zoning for the R.1 to
If you're-
2.5?
Lori, if you're talking about the public hearing comments, then you have to wait till the public hearing starts on the
Okay,
the
great,
zoning.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anything, staff, do you see anyone?
Nobody's raising their hand or speaking up. So
All right, thank you. Item number 5 is approval of the minutes for January the 12th, 2022. Any changes, corrections, or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the January regular session minutes as written.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Labonte, seconded by Commissioner Nunnenkamp for approval of the January 12th, 2022 minutes as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are approved as presented. Okay, item number 6 is a public hearing. We have 2 public hearings. First public hearing will be file 22-002 Bryn Hill Phase 4 and 5 Design Review Row Houses. This is a quasi judicial public hearing, and we will be possibly making decisions or continuing. So Lori, if I could get the procedure for the public hearing?
thank you, Chair King. The North Plains Planning Commission will conduct a quasi judicial public hearing on file number 22-002 Bryn Hill Phase 4 and 5 Design Review Row Homes. The order of business will be as follows. The commission chair will open the public hearing and ask for declarations of conflict of interest, ex parte contact, or personal bias. The commission chair will request the staff report. The commissioners may ask questions at any time during the public hearing. Any written correspondence submitted on behalf of the subject application will be orally presented, including the individual's name and address. The applicant will be invited to present oral testimony first. The public will then be invited to provide oral and written testimony on the proposed land use permit, first by proponents, then opponents, followed by those individuals who are neutral. Additional staff comments will then be presented. If opposing testimony is presented, the applicant will be provided an opportunity for rebuttal. Opponents will also be provided an opportunity to speak in regards to the rebuttal. The commission chair will call for commission comments and discussion. The commission chair will close the public hearing or continue the hearing to a specific time and date. If the commission chair closes the public hearing, a decision will then be entered into by the planning commission. The decision will then be entered into a final findings of fact order, which will then be mailed with a letter detailing the decision to all parties of the proceedings. Appeals of a land use decision must be received by the city recorder within 15 days following the date the decision is mailed to the parties. All persons testifying shall be deemed parties to the proceeding and must provide their name and full mailing address. Parties will be notified of the decision, continuances, appeals, or other procedural actions required by the code and state law. The city municipal code zoning and development standards specifies applicable criteria to be relied upon in making a decision. Those criteria and findings of fact are in the city staff report. Public testimony should be limited to those criteria and findings of fact or to other state or city land use standards that the person testifying believes apply to the proposed land use action. Failure to raise an issue in person or in writing with sufficient detail to afford the hearing body and parties to the hearing an opportunity to respond to that issue precludes appeal to the city council or land use board or to seek damages to the Washington County Circuit Court due to the condition of appeal.
All right, thank you. I will open the public hearing at 7:06 for file 22-002 Bren Hill Phase 4 and 5 Design Review Row Homes. Are there any of the commissioners that wish to disclose any conflict of interest, ex parte contact, or bias? Hearing or seeing none. Is there anyone on the Zoom meeting that challenges any of the commissioners to hear this?
This is Shelley Graham. I am really kind of behind. I just received a notice that you guys were going to be having some changes to the land use planning. My home is on 32450 Northwest Wasco Street.
Shelley,
Yes.
we're doing a public hearing on the Bren Hill subdivision. We will do the public hearing on the code updates after this public hearing.
Oh, okay. So I'll hold.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, thank you. Could I please get the staff report summaries, agency comments, and conditions of approval?
Thank you, Chair King. I'm going to start the slideshow here. Can everybody see the city's logo for community development? Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. We are before you this evening with a land use application for the Bren Hill Phases 4 and 5 row home design review application. So as you know, over the last 2 months, you've had a chance to review the Bren Hill Phases 4 and 5 master plan refinement, and then the Bren Hill Phases 4 and 5 subdivision. And now this is the final piece for Phases 4 and 5 to get the row home design review before you. This evening, you have a staff report in your packet that was provided a week ago on February 2nd. It includes all the findings of fact and recommended conditions of approval with this application. So just as a refresher, this is Phases 4 and 5 of Bren Hill. The subdivision has been approved. The alignment of the roads and everything was discussed during the master plan refinement and during the subdivision hearings. So tonight we are specifically looking at the Phases 4 and 5 row home units. So Phase 4, which is the one sort of in the middle of the screen, 16 units in 4 unit blocks, four unit blocks. Phase 5 has 4 unit blocks, a 5 unit block, and a 6 unit block. So 27 total in Phase 5. Here is the Phase 4 stretch. So you can see those 4 unit blocks. I've got something right over the middle of my screen, but hopefully you don't. You can see each of those units and the setbacks are being shown that are meeting the code of the NC zone for those housing types. It's also meeting the lot coverage standards, so no variances being requested with this application. For Phase 5, the row homes are shown here along Main Street on the east side and along Northwest 317th on the west. And again, no variances being requested, all units meeting setbacks, lot coverage, and height standards, and off-street parking. This was provided in the applicant's submittal to show the lot coverage, to show where the 80% maximum lot coverage will be met for each unit. The end units provide a lot more undeveloped portion of the lot, but the middle units are pretty close to that 80% lot coverage unit maximum. The applicable development code sections this evening are listed here, and they're detailed in the staff report. Each of the criteria are identified with a finding of fact, and if there is a condition needed to bring this application into compliance with one of these sections, those are recommended in the staff report as well. Clean Water Services and Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue did produce service provider letters for this application. There were no concerns or objections particular to this application that were raised, but there are standard conditions of approval that have been incorporated into this recommended approval and conditions of approval. And then all prior conditions of approval for all Bryn Hill will continue to apply. We have not received public testimony on this design review application prior to this evening's hearing. So with that, the staff recommendation is that the Planning Commission approve the design review application for 43 row homes in phases 4 and 5 of the Bryn Hill Master Plan, City File number 22-002. And there are conditions of approval being recommended by staff as well.
All right, thank you. Are there any of the commissioners have any questions of the staff report? Hearing or seeing none. Is the applicant on the Zoom meeting?
Yes.
Are you in compliance with the staff report? Do you have any comments, questions?
We do have a brief presentation, if it's okay for PowerPoint. And
Okay.
Stacy Connery with Pacific Community Design, 12564 Southwest Main Street in Tigard, Oregon, 97223.
Thank you.
I lost it. No, I guess I didn't.
Okay, thank you, Heather, for your very thorough staff report. I'll try to keep our presentation pretty brief because I think Heather hit a lot of the highlights. Our first slide here is just identifying the row home lots within phase 4 and within phase 5 in orange. And this next slide is showing the proposed conceptual architecture for the row homes. And this slide just combines the two bits of information, and I would like to confirm that we do accept the staff report and the recommended conditions of approval, and we are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions of the presentation? The applicant?
Stuart, I don't have any questions about the application tonight, but I was just more curious if in general, the architecture of the proposed buildings are similar or cohesive with the same type of buildings in the prior phases?
Yes, they are similar to the phases 1 through 3. Phases 1 through 2.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any of the other commissioners have any comments?
I have a concern about the setback on the back of the lot where that says 3 to 5 foot. And I think that 5 foot is just promoting people that may want to try and park back there horizontally to their garages. At 3 foot, you couldn't do it, but if hybrid could get in there at 5, I'm sure.
I believe, Heather, you may be able to correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I think the code standard is 3 to 5. It is something that we have practiced in many other projects, and the 3 to 5 range tends to prohibit people from parking within that space.
I know the 3 foot does, but the 5 foot, I don't know how we control that with people, parking back there horizontally and stuff to or perpendicular to their drive, their garages and stuff then. So that's one thing we talked about in future zones and stuff too, about reducing that to make sure people aren't trying to park back there.
It can be signed, and I believe it's also usually incorporated in the CCNRs for the project so that the homeowners are made aware that there's not parking allowed on the alleys.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're
I
on,
just-
you confirm that the setbacks are 3 to 5 feet on the back lots.
Thank you, Chair King. I was just pulling up the code section to make sure that I was quoting it properly. So the townhome standard states that there's a 0-foot minimum rear setback, but then when you read the notes of the table for the NC1 table, it states that the garage setback from an alley shall be between 3 and 5 feet, or if providing an off-street parking space, the garage and the alley must be, the garage must be set back from the alley a minimum of 20 feet. So yeah, it is 3 to 5 and then, or 20 minimum.
Thank you.
I was just commenting that it just kind of promotes people trying to park back there. That's my main comment. So
I appreciate that. Any other questions of the planning commissioners? Lori, I'm assuming you see none?
I have to scroll through here just a second because of my page. I do not see any hands raised at this time.
All right, thank you for the applicant. But
Thank you.
now is time for any proponents. Anyone else who wish to testify in favor of? Not
Don't see
seeing-
anyone.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Any opponents, people who wish to testify against?
No hands raised.
Okay, is there anyone that wishes to testify either for, against, or neutral for the Bryn Hill Phase 4 and 5 design review? None?
No hands, nope.
Is there any questions or discussion from the planning commission? Apparently not. I will close the public hearing at 7:18. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the Bryn Hill Phase 4 and 5 Design Review Townhomes, file number 22-002
Second.
with the
It's been moved by Commissioner Levante, seconded by Commissioner Van Donlen for approval of file number 220002 Bryn Hill Phase 4 and 5 Design Review Row Homes. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? It passes unanimously. All right, thank you. Our next public hearing is going to be for file number 22001 code update plan text amendments, which is going to be a legislative public hearing, in which we will be making recommendation to city council. Gloria, do you need to give us the procedure again? Or
I do. It's a little bit different than the other one. So yes, I
Okay.
do.
well, I want to make sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair King. The North Plains Planning Commission will conduct a legislative public hearing on file 22-001 code update plan text amendment. The order of business will be as follows. The chairperson will open the public hearing and request the staff report. The commission may ask questions at any time during the public hearing. Any written correspondence submitted on behalf of this item will be orally presented, including the individual's name and address. The public will be invited to provide oral and written testimony on the proposed amendment. Additional staff comments will then be presented. The chairperson will call for commission comments and discussion. The chairperson will close the public hearing or continue the hearing to a specific date and time. All persons testifying shall be deemed parties to the proceeding and must provide their full name and full mailing address. Parties will be notified of the decision, continuances, appeals, or other procedural actions required by code and state law. The city municipal code, zoning, and development standards specifies applicable criteria to be relied upon in making a decision. Those criteria and findings of fact are in the city staff report. Public testimony should be limited to those criteria and findings of fact, or to other city or state land use standards that the person testifying believes apply to the proposed land use action. Failure to raise an issue in person or in writing with sufficient detail to afford the hearing body and parties to the hearing an opportunity to respond to that issue precludes appeal to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals.
All right, thank you, Lori. I will open the public hearing at 7:21 for file number 22-001 code update plan text amendment. Could I please get the staff report?
Yes, thank you, Chair King. For those of you who were with us on the 6 p.m. work session, you're going to have a bit of deja vu, but practice makes perfect. So hopefully I can go through this presentation of the proposed code changes and make sure I cover all of the information, and then questions and comments can come at the end when appropriate and when asked for by Chair King. The Zoning and Development Code update this evening is based on work that's been done by the Planning Commission over the last year and a half, in addition to the UGB expansion project that the city has been working on, phase 1 of which is complete and includes land use efficiency measures, particularly for residential development. The sections proposed for updates in the Zoning and Development Code are listed here. There is also one page of the comprehensive plan that's being proposed for update, which includes those residential zoning sections. So just going through section by section, in the definition section, we're cleaning up language. The top row that are in blue are all related to housing code. So adding a cottage cluster standard, clarifying that condominiums are multifamily dwellings, and then making sure that it's clear that a multifamily dwelling is different than a townhouse dwelling. And then let's see here, clarifying that single family attached, which is a unit on its own lot but attached on one or more sides to another unit on its own lot, is considered also a townhouse or a row house, but it's collectively thought of as a townhouse. Then on the bottom, the green are more clarification, not related to housing. So we have currently 2 definitions of hospital. We're going to reduce that down so we just have 1 definition for hospital, changing parochial to private schools so we capture all versions of private schools, clarifying what a monument sign is, and making sure that it's clear that outdoor storage has its own definition separate from outdoor vehicle storage. As for design review, we're doing some updates for the review criteria for a staff level decision. We're simplifying the submittal requirements, but as I said previously, one of the simplifications that's proposed this evening is to not require any photographs of the site. However, what we would like to propose is that that be an optional thing that the Planning Commission may still require photographs of the site. So we're going to leave that language in there because it is optional at this point. We don't currently have landscaping requirements for mixed use and institutional public use zones, so we are planning to add those in. We have setbacks for churches and community centers that are 30 feet, which are much greater than those required by the underlying zone. So we feel that the underlying zone is the appropriate setback standard there. We have fencing standards for schools that haven't always made sense for the school development. So we're going to let the schools determine what the best fencing is for keeping their students safe. We have currently clear standards for bed and breakfast inns that you can have 3 bedrooms and 3 patrons. And so because it is a conditional use review, allowing the Planning Commission to make a decision of what's appropriate for that particular building in that particular neighborhood. Right now, we don't identify bicycle or electric vehicle parking, but we're going to add that as a requirement to be shown on your submitted plans. And then related to housing, we are adding clear and objective standards for multifamily and cottage cluster. And as we said, the topic came up in the work session that the multifamily standards have orientation to a public street, but we're going to recommend that we add in they may also be oriented to a common courtyard or amenity. And again, those go through a design review process with the Planning Commission. The zoning districts, we are updating the names of the zoning districts because right now they're not reflective of the names we use elsewhere in the code. And we're going to prepare for the next round of code updates by talking about a concept plan that will be required prior to annexation for the future urban growth boundary expansion areas. We don't have that code language ready, but preparing this section to identify that is the first step in doing that. The zoning use table was due for an overhaul. We needed to clarify the land use categories and where things were permitted, conditional, and prohibited. There were conflicts throughout the code. And then we had a couple of land use categories that were missing altogether that needed to be included. The residential zones, currently planned unit developments are conditional in all our zones, so we're going to make those permitted uses. We are going to update the density ranges and targets and the dimensional standards based on the UGB expansion work that's been done. For R7.5 and R5, we're going to remove residential facilities as conditional uses. This is already prohibited in the zoning use table, and these facilities are more akin to a high density residential, so keeping them in the R2.5 zone makes sense there. For R5, we're going to move duplex, triplex, and townhouses to permitted. Currently, they're conditional uses, but we're really focused on getting those middle density, middle housing types into that R5 zone. And then for R2.5, we're looking to move multifamily from conditional to permitted to allow those outright, to permit cottage clusters, which is a new housing type for the city, and then to prohibit new single family detached dwellings, which is a land use efficiency measure that's being regulated in cities over 10,000 or in the metro area. But in North Plains, it's considered an efficiency measure to make sure that the high density residential areas are where our higher density development occurs. Oops. The NC zone, neighborhood community, we are talking, proposing to take any kind of mixed use. So there's 2 mixed use parcels, one in Sunset Ridge and one in Bryn Hill. And the proposal, currently the language says that you can have a mixed use development and it's not specific. So we are proposing that if you have ground floor street facing elevation residential development, that you need a conditional use permit for that. In our industrial zones, we are proposing to add as a conditional use restaurants and mixed use buildings such as a brewery with a tasting room or a restaurant. And then in the M2, which is our general or heavy industrial, we're adding RV park and trailer park, travel trailer park as conditional uses. Townhouses, the code section that these are residing in currently is called duplex, triplex, and 2-family single unit development. We are proposing to remove duplex and triplex from this category and have them be subject to the same standards as single family residential, including height, lot coverage, and setbacks, so that the bulk and massing of those is more similar to a single family structure, and then have clear and objective standards specific to townhouse development. Lot line adjustments, we don't currently have a lot of standards for this, so we wanted to make sure that when we're reviewing a lot line adjustment, we're making sure that access and easements are preserved, that we're resulting in one zone on each parcel and not having split zone parcels, and that any future development that could occur based on a lot line adjustment isn't precluded because we've cut off access or changed the configuration such that it can't be developed. For the planned unit development, the current criteria require 4 acres before you can consider applying for a planned unit development. We're proposing to reduce that to 1 acre, which is more in line with what you'd see in other jurisdictions and what properties might actually be able to develop with these standards. And similarly, right now we require 65% of the site to be left in open space. We're proposing to reduce that down to 25% for flexibility. And then to allow mixed use, mixed zone PUDs to allow the mix of the uses throughout the site. And finally, off-street parking and loading. We currently permit joint use parking, but when it occurs between commercial and residential, we are proposing that 1 space be maintained for patrons of the commercial business. We're also proposing that joint access may be required when developments occur next to each other, so that that's a potential for future development. We are defining our garage spaces to 12 by 22 because they are permitted to be counted for off-street parking. So we want to make sure they're adequately sized to fit a vehicle. And we currently base our lot loading standards on the size of a business, but don't take into consideration what their actual loading needs are. So this allows for 1 loading space minimum, and then the Planning Commission in their design review has the opportunity to add additional loading space requirements based on what the actual use is. That is it. That's the second time through. I'm going to stop the share because that questions slide was for the work session. And that is it for the staff report. The findings of fact for approving or recommending approval on a comprehensive plan text amendment are included in your staff report this evening. We haven't received any agency comments. We did hear a public comment during our work session, but I believe the person is still here. Actually, maybe not. No, okay. So Lori Verbort asked that her comment be entered into the record, which is that she is on our 2.5 zoned property, and she, if the removal of new single family detached housing occurs on her lot, she would like to see her lot rezoned to something like an R1 zoning, which I think would mean that she would still be able to do single family detached. So that took from her comment. I don't have any other public comments to share. I haven't received any.
All right, thank you. Do any of the planning commissioners have any questions of the staff report? Hearing none, either Andy or Lori. I know there's a few people that want to talk, maybe a number. That looks like there's 24 on this meeting. And if they could use the hand raise, that way we could take them one at a time, because as they come forward to make their comments, testimony, we need them to state their name and address for the record. So if anyone has questions of how to do the hand raise, please tell us now. So I don't know if Andy or Lori, are you going to be in charge of that?
Well, Carrie just figured it out. It looked like if people are on a PC and I think other devices, if you have a reactions button under there is the option to raise a hand. That's the best way, and then the chair can call people one by one.
Okay, well, it's going to be hard for me because I'm not going to see hand raises.
Yeah, I'll watch for them. I'll be watching.
Yeah.
So yes.
We will open this up to any other testimony, anyone on the Zoom meeting.
So a gentleman named Kerry has his hand raised.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Name is Carrie Cristiano, 31530 Northwest North Avenue. My question is in regards to our 7.5 low density. And with these new structures going up on the other side of the street, which do not match the single family housing on this side of the street, my question is in regards to frontage fences and whatnot are required by the city to be 3 feet or less on the front of the property. With the possibility of a 3-story building being across the street from me, what options does that afford me to gain some privacy or basically restore some of what I once had in the past after this new development is, put together, basically?
First of all, staff, are the proposals on the townhouses, are they 3-story or are they 2-story?
Chair King, there are no changes proposed to the height of townhouses. I can pull up what they are currently. That is what will be continuing to move forward.
Okay, and does staff have any answers or comments to the testimony?
So just regarding fencing in the front yard setback, there's no proposed code language related to that this evening. We haven't proposed any changes to the R7.5 zone besides removal of the residential care facility. So there are no other changes proposed for what can be done on an R7.5 lot with this proposed code section.
But did you have any other comments, Carrie?
Yeah, it's just that recently it was brought to my attention that there's a possibility at the mixed use, which is commercial / residential, which is directly across the street from me, can possibly be a 3-story building, composing of apartments plus commercial on the bottom. If that is the case, that's a big change from what we're used to over here, not looking, we were looking out at a field before, and that's a lot of people being able to look down on our property. So I'm thinking that people on North Avenue, if that is what, the changes might become, are, will there be changes to the code that in the past said you can only have a 3-foot fence in front of your house or 3-foot, that's what I was, under the understanding is that we were under a 3-foot limit for fencing or anything else. And if we want to gain that privacy again outside of shrubs or bushes or trees, is there going to be any changes to the code in relations to that? Because one, there's going to be headlight traffic. We're going to have cars parking there. There's going to be a lot more noise. What do the residents on the south side of North Avenue have that can comfort them for all of these massive changes on the north side, from buildings that are at least twice as high as ours already? So that's my main concern.
Chair King, if I
Go
may,
ahead.
just
Please.
to give the code perspective there, that is correct, that in a front yard setback, the maximum fence height is 3 feet. So just to confirm that. And then the mixed use area across the street is a 45-foot maximum height. So I think 3 stories is what is allowed there. So both of those are both permitted by the code right now, and no changes are being proposed to either of those this evening.
So in response, at this time, we don't have an answer to your questions, in other words. So this is all, like I said, this is a code that's being recommended for change to the city council. Your comments can be brought up there again. But unfortunately, it appears that development as it moves forward creates situations that is not the best for everyone.
Stuart, I have a quick question for Heather.
Go ahead, please.
In regards to that comment about the 3-foot fence, the 3-foot fence is based on the clear vision requirements. Is that correct for coming out of driveways and streets?
I believe so. It's in the code written, fences and walls shall not exceed a height of 3 feet along the front property line or within the front yard setback. It is related to clear vision for backing out of a driveway, but it's also related to the neighborhood aesthetic and eyes on the street, and just making sure that there's, you know, a front of a home that's facing a street is visible.
So the answer to the question is it's the entire frontage of the property.
That is correct.
Okay. Anything else, Heather Labonte?
No, thank you.
All right. Is there someone else that has wants to testify?
I don't see anyone raising their hand.
I believe Shelley Brown had wanted to make some comments earlier. Is she's still here, and does she want to make comments?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm very new to this. I just got this in the mail. I was trying to figure out how this was going to affect the Wasco Street. The new provisions and the new plans.
May I ask, Chair King, do you happen to know your zoning of your property on Wasco?
I don't, like I said, no.
Okay, what is your cross street? I'll just look it up really fast.
It's right off of Gordon and then Wasco.
Oh, that the new subdivision down there.
And could you please provide your full mailing
Oh,
address?
Sorry
Yeah,
about it.
32450 Northwest Wasco.
Thank you.
That's the Sunset Terrace subdivision.
Yeah.
I'm just looking up the zoning on it just so I don't speak in error, but it does look like it is the R2.5. So you are in the high density zoning district of the city. So the proposed changes to the R2.5 zone would permit you to build new duplex, triplex, and multifamily and cottage cluster buildings on your property, but they would preclude a brand new single family detached home. But this would assume that your property is large enough to build something like that. If you are on an individual lot, your existing home is still permitted. We have anything that's built before basically the adoption of this code. So February 28th of this year, I believe is what's in the code, would continue to be a permitted use. So your home is a permitted outright structure. So really no changes, I guess, in that way.
And can you tell me what is a cottage cluster?
Sure. Cottage clusters are considered middle housing by the state. So they're like smaller single homes, but all together on one lot. So maybe you have 4 to 6 structures, and in the proposed code language, the footprint would have to be a maximum of 1,200 square feet. So small home structures all on one lot together.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Is there anyone else wishes to testify or has any comments?
I don't see any hands raised at this time.
Okay, any of the planning commissioners have any questions before we move forward?
How would zoning 7.5 on Northwest Wasco be affected?
Could you repeat that, please?
How would zoning 7.5 on Northwest Wasco be affected?
Can I get your name and address, please?
Ivan Rodriguez, 31899 Northwest Wasco.
Mr. King, may I respond?
Go ahead, please.
In the R7.5 zoning district, the only change is that we are, it used to say in the R7.5 section that you could build a residential care facility, which is for the care of 6 to 15 adults who need medical or emotional, social, or mental health care. Those type of uses, because of the high number of residents, are more appropriate for the R2.5 zone where they are conditionally permitted already. And there was another portion of the code that prohibited them in the R7.5 zone. So we're basically just cleaning up the R7.5 so that it doesn't say residential care facility. So that is the only thing that's changing with R7.5 this evening.
Got it. Thanks.
Is there anyone else have any comments or questions?
No hands raised at this time.
Okay. No comments from planning commissioners? Okay, we will be, yes.
Pardon me, Stuart. I just have one follow-up for Heather. In regards to Lori Verbort's comment regarding the zoning of her property, that was partitioned a few years ago, correct? So I guess my question is, so we're not precluding her doing any further development with her property. She could still do, for example, the row homes or townhomes, which we saw this evening. It would just be a matter of detached residential.
That is correct. So single family detached residential would be precluded, but she would still be able to do duplex, triplex, townhouse, multifamily, or cottage cluster.
Okay. And I'm assuming that there's still a market for that since we're seeing it being developed in Bryn Hill.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the market, but we have seen pre-applications on that type of development also. So I would say that's true.
Thank you.
Cool. Is there anyone else that you see, Lori?
There is not.
Okay, so if this is approved, we will be making approval for recommendation to City Council. So I will close the public hearing at 7:47. Any comments from the planning commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion for a recommendation.
I'll make a recommendation to approve the file number 22-001 code update plan.
Just a quick point of order, Chair King. May we please add that the multifamily orientation will be changed to add a possibility of orienting toward a courtyard or common amenity, that the photos may be required with design review. And may we also recommend this to the City Council on February 22nd so as not to have to do another public notice mailing.
Commissioner Conadell, you approve?
Yes.
Thank you.
I second.
Was that Commissioner Nunningham?
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Conadell and seconded by Commissioner Nunningham for to approve recommendation or recommendation for approval to City Council with noted changes. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, thank you. We'll move on to item number 7 is new business, file number 22-003 St. Edward Church Extension. Staff?
Yes, Chair King, may I just say one thing while everybody's still on the call?
Sure.
Everyone who provided testimony this evening, so Carrie, Shelley, and Ivan, you're entitled to the notice of decision in this code change once the City Council makes their decision. If you would like to receive that by email instead of getting it in the mail, please feel free to reach out to the city recorder either through the chat or email her from the city website, whatever you'd like to do, because I know that I heard a couple of the addresses, but some of them were pretty fast. So it might be easier to give the city reporter your email address so we can make sure we get that to you.
Thank you for those comments.
Okay, so back to what you just opened, which was the St. Edward extension request. Not a public hearing this evening. You've already done that over a year ago and you approved it, but based on our code criteria for a design review, you get a 1-year approval unless substantial construction has begun on the site. But you do allow those extensions as long as no changes have occurred in the applicable zoning ordinances. And if the reason for the extension is not the fault of the applicant, which, clearly with COVID and, slower review timeframes and construction timelines and things, that is surely not the case at this point for the St. Edward Parish expansion. So we did provide a memo into the record this evening that staff recommends approval of this 1-year extension request. I don't have it pulled up right at the moment, but I believe it's February 18th, 2023 that we're extending to. Sorry, should I open that? But anyway, 1 year from the 2022 original expiration.
Okay. Point of order, are we voting on this? Is that what we're doing?
I think you should take a vote just so that we know that it's the will of the Planning Commission to expand it, but we don't require a signed notice of decision. We just put it into the record that it's extended.
Well, for the record, I had to abstain from the vote because I was involved in the process on the committee with them. So I would have to have Vice Chair Labonte take over that vote.
So are we just doing it by a motion or a consensus?
Just consensus is fine.
All those in favor of an extension, a 1-year extension for the St. Edward's Catholic Church expansion?
Yay.
Yeah,
Any nays? All right, there you go.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Labonte. Item number 8 is unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business, staff?
I don't have any for you this evening. Not sure if Andy or Lori.
I do not.
Oh, I always do, but I'll report it when it's important.
We'll move on to item number 9 is the land use applications and the 3J monthly report. These are both in your package. Any questions on those? Hearing or seeing none. We'll move on to item number 10 is the Planning Commission comments. Just wanted to remind the planning commissioners that Lori sent out an email about, I think it was the 1st of February, about the statement of economic interest that you're required to fill out with the state every year. And I understand that we should be receiving those via email sometime mid March, and they're due April the 15th. Is that correct, Lori?
That is correct. They will be sent out in sometime the first 2 weeks of March. So just watch for it. Check your spam email. Sometimes they go there. And if you don't see one by the end of March, contact me and I can contact them and have them resend an email. We don't want you to miss that deadline.
No, because there is a fine.
There is a fine.
Okay. And especially if you haven't done one before, because you want to make sure they're on their list. All right, so does the Planning Commission have any comments for our ex officio, Councilor Sheldon? Hearing, seeing none. Councilor Sheldon, comments for the Planning Commission?
Sure. Well, first, thanks for taking on the task of getting some of the code changes in place. And I know it's been a little brutal during the pandemic and all these, non-social meetings in a way, but it's necessary. We're moving forward. We obviously are embarking on the UGB, and there's a number of things that are pretty important that we get cleaned up before we have problems. So thanks for recognizing that. Thanks for your service. And, I'm trying to recruit another member for you. I know you have a vacancy still. I didn't see any applications on this agenda. So hopefully we can get that spot filled here pretty soon.
All right, thank you. Any response from Planning Commission? All right, that'll move us on to item number 11, staff comments.
None from me, but it looks like Andy might need a
And
moment.
if you stop playing with your kids and give us staff comments.
Impeccable timing. They know when to bust into a room. Well, the big news from the planning side here is the city posted for a planning manager job, a full-time position to be a city employee last Friday, and the applications are due on February 25th. So this isn't news to Heather. She knew that was coming. She's been very helpful and kind of helping to flesh out the position description and the posting, and she'll still be involved. Her services will still be necessary for both current and long-term planning, but that's sort of the big news. So if you have any planners in your life, send them my way. And I just want to say Heather's been very professional in helping us through this. So thank you for that.
Well, until we replace her, we'll just keep her on.
Yeah, she's captive. Yeah.
There, anything else from staff?
No, I would expect a UGB PAC meeting, hopefully the first part of March. We have some the EOA draft findings. We just got them last week, kind of pouring over those right now. So hopefully we can start that analysis again and get moving forward with a PAC meeting in early March.
Okay. And Heather, upcoming land use?
That's a great question. We don't have anything in right now. So I don't think we'll have anything for March just because of needing to review it for completeness and send out public notice. I just don't, and we only have 28 days, until the next meeting. So I honestly think we won't have any business items that I'm aware of for the next meeting.
Are we looking at a work session prior to?
I don't have anything on my agenda for that, but if you would like to do that, just let us know.
Well, I know that as we worked in our mini group, we might need to do some of that prior to a work session. So I just wasn't sure if you had anything planned that way.
No, I think the focus is on getting through the city council hearings with the current proposal. We'll need to go before them on the 22nd and then again on the first meeting in March because we have that second reading of the ordinance. So I wouldn't propose any code updates for the next packet probably until April.
Heather?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Cherokee. Can I say something real quick?
No. Yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of important at this point. This is important. So I have a question there. The council's first meeting in March is actually going to be replaced by, that's when their board retreat is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the second meeting in March, I just want to make sure there's no issue if it's 30 days in between the first and second hearing or anything for adoption.
So the adoption will be 30 days after the second reading. It just pushes back that second reading.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I guess I meant 30 days.
final,
from the first and
final
second hearing.
adoption just pushes back. So as
Okay.
long as that's, yeah.
Okay. The Oregon's planning rules always baffle me, so I'm just making
But
sure.
it is good. It is good to know because I'll be drafting for the packet for next week for council. I'll be drafting that ordinance, so I'll make sure to put that March meeting in there.
Yeah, it would be March 21.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's all.
And it sounds like from our workshop meeting that we may need to be looking at our marijuana code for potential updates on that. So as far as our mini group to review. So any other staff comments? Okay, our next regular meeting.
I guess I should say one thing. I don't know if this carries weight with anyone, but I got a really nice voicemail from Ann Debode at DLCD a couple weeks ago saying she was just impressed with all the work that the Planning Commission and the city has been putting into the development code updates. I thought that was a nice message to pass on. So.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, our next regular meeting is March the 9th, and Andy guarantees it's going to be in person.
I'll just say I'm pretty sure, but I don't make guarantees anymore. Yeah.
Okay, well. And so with that, if there's no other planning commission business, we are adjourned at 8:01. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.